Welcome back. We're in the afternoon stream right now. Now, earlier today, I actually did a stream where we built the what we call the Teamy Factory, because these Teamies are all the different skill sets we're going to need, little virtual team members, if you will. And so I wanted to sort of pick up where we left off there, because I was at the very, very end, and unfortunately just had a consulting call, which, by the way, I'm open to doing that. So if anybody needs help with that, automated with tech, we'll have ways to be able to get in touch with me if you need some help. But I digress. So diving back into this, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I've got right now. Now, this is the Teamy Factory. It's built, it's done. I did one little change, and I'll show you how I did it, just so we can kind of close the loop on that. But what it was doing initially during the tests were, it was giving me prompts and everything, but it wasn't giving me the correct prompts to build out the knowledge I needed for the gems and everything we were building for these Teamies. So we fixed that. Now, the way I fixed that is right in here. So this is where we're building the Teamy Factory. You can see how I'm naming it, right, with Teamy Build. So I'm going to go ahead and okay, because I don't need to save anything there. Okay, so then there's the process. So what I did is I went through and I said, hey, there's a part of the knowledge document that's not working right. This is me just sort of riffing through, right? I was on the mic. And then I gave it the example output I was getting, where it basically gave me the work. And this is where I left it off in the last stream. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to fix this. But it was a very simple fix. All I needed to do was add this piece. So I was like, hey, this isn't what I want. I'm not supposed to do the work. AI is supposed to do the work. I just need the prompts so I can get AI to do the work. Could you fix that so it's not this, and think it through? And it did. And then I rewrote the instructions, and that was it. Then it worked. So that's how I got Teamy Factory as now a bot, as, essentially a bot that we can now use to create other Teamies. Now to test it, I created a Teamy. So I'm going to show you our first Teamy, because I've already done this. So this is the one we need for the Fluent stuff, because I needed a Teamy that understood Fluent and Fluent Community and Fluent support and all the stuff that we're doing on the WordPress site, all the plugin tech that we use, so that it could just help me get stuff done. And then we tested it. So I'm going to show you, I'm just going to walk through very quickly how I did this. Then we're going to build another one. And I'm going to build this one using that same riff prompt, which is the one that created the Teamy Factory. Remember, we riffed using that riff prompt into the Teamy Factory. And now we're going to use the Teamy Factory to go back and create another riff Teamy, basically. That'll be a better, stronger version of just than just by the prompt by itself, right? Okay, so let's see the showcases. So what I did is I basically said, hey, I want a Teamy that knows WordPress. This was me again, just riffing. I did this on a mic, so I'm gonna go kind of quickly through this just to kind of show. But I described it, right? Like, here's all the stuff we need. Here's what I'm trying to get done. It went through the results stuff. I said basically, yep, it looked great, which was, here's where we currently are. I kind of have all these cool ideas, but I need something that can help me do it and put it into motion. Here's the desired state, something that kind of helps us to automate, to amplify things, gets it simple. Here's the Teamy's role. It's going to help us to do that and give specific directions. That was good enough. Like, I believe I have enough for that. So I'm like, yep, that sounds perfect. Because remember, the Teamy already knows who we are and who the co-founders are. So it already knows that, already has good context. So I'm not having to, I know it already knows why it's trying to do stuff. So it's more likely to be more useful than me having to say, no, let me go and double check stuff. So here's the Fluent Teamy. There's the impact, the effortless creation that I wanted. For me, staying at 30,000 level for my wife is to be able to go get a little more specific detail, which makes sense, right? So I'm like, yep, that makes total sense. That's the impact we want. Because again, I don't want to have to think about how to do everything. I just want to have that cool idea that goes, yes, that's something new and exciting. Let's build that, be able to give that to the Fluent Teamy. And then that Teamy says, okay, cool, here's everything we do. And then I just assemble, right? No big deal. Now, this was the new part. So I called this the simulation. We did change this a little bit earlier. So now the Teamy Factory is going to simulate. It's going to give me a little test. Okay, let's just make sure. And we're going to run this through a simulation. Here's basically what should happen. Here's a simulation example. Would this be right? So, or does this feel like it's useful? So, okay, remember, just cancel a subscription. We need to do this process. How do I do this? In other words, I just had this cool idea about what do we do when somebody cancels a subscription. Easy for me to say. And this is what it said. Oh yeah, understood. Here's how we would do it. Here's what it all looks like. Right. And I'm like, okay, like, yes, that's good enough, because this is a simulation. It's not the actual instructions. I probably would give it more details, but I'm like, yeah, generally speaking, if it came close to that. Also, look at this strategic recommendation, right? Using conditional stuff. So it's doing the more advanced things that I wanted it to do by default, which was great, which is think about everything that you have as a capability. And then how would I design Fluent versus what I would do, which is I'm going to put it together the way I think I should, and then I'm going to learn by trial and error what I actually should have done, right? That's why I'm building this teamy, because this teamy knows what I should do from day zero from the right way, right? Based on what I'm doing. So that's the whole point. And I'll show you how I'm doing that in a second. So there's that. I said, yep, that makes sense. So this was really fast. I didn't have to do a whole lot of back and forth. This took me a couple of minutes to build out this part. So then it gives me the directions. Okay, cool. Here's my persona instructions. These are the actual instructions for it. And this is those right there. So there's my instructions. So I have that. That's part of the kit. Then, let me go back. So then I got the knowledge prompts. So here is the first prompt that I got for deep research. When I used that prompt in deep research, and that's all I did was just create, I went into the chat, I clicked on deep research, which was there at the time, right? And then you paste in the prompt on a new chat. Let me just see very quickly if I can show you one of those things. Here's one. There you go. This is an example. So this is the prompt AI wrote. It got it from the kit, right? And then I just turned on deep research, and then it did its research report, right? Kind of thing. Like that was the idea. Actually, I don't know if this one did it, but one of these is deep research. Where's my deep research? This isn't it. Hang on. I apologize. Let me just see. I was half thinking about deep. There we go. This is how you can tell it's deep research. Okay, so there it is. So act as a martyr, here it is. Act as this, right? And then create the playbook. So it did. Here's the playbook. Great. So now I've got all of that up and running, right? So that's how I built those. Let me go back to our Fluent Teamy, where we built the Fluent Teamy is where we built it. Okay. So again, I got the prompts. Those were all the prompts. And there's deep research report number 1, deep research report number 2, deep research report number 3. So it came up and said, okay, I need 3 different deep research reports. Obviously, it's going to have the default reports, understanding me and my wife, the other co-founder, and understanding what Automated with Tech is trying to do in the world and all that fun stuff. And so it knows all of those. So all I needed to do then was assemble. And I cannot emphasize how fast this was. This is minutes I was doing this. Because you'll see, I didn't do a lot of back and forth. I was like, yep, that sounds good. Let's go. So I could test it. So that's what I did. Then I just followed the directions, which were essentially to assemble our Fluent Teamy. So what it looks like back here is here's my instructions. Again, same things I just copied from. Here's the automation playbook. This is the knowledge that it created for itself. The brand mission was the previous knowledge that the factory, Teamy factory created. Same with the co-founder knowledge. There's our Fluent ecosystem. And then there's our other Fluent integration stuff. So it's got 2 completely different sources of documents around Fluent to help around specific things that it needs to help me with, or will likely be able to help me with. So now I tested it. And this is what I said. I said, hey, help me move forward. I got a WordPress site. We got up and running. We got the emails going, which is all of this is true. We had the Fluent form. I created a Fluent form, but didn't connect it to anything. I was just kind of playing around with stuff. We do use Fluent boards every day. And I'll be showing you more on that stuff too, about how we manage sort of productivity and all that fun stuff between us as that goes on. But I don't have Fluent CRM. I don't have anything else set up. Like, where do we even start? I was kind of thinking, and this is truly where human in the loop is important. I was thinking, like, maybe we should assemble these things. We have a better impact. Like, how do we do this? Can we think about tagging? Like, I'm in here talking about not what do I do? Like, how do I start assembling these things? Because they would have told me how to assemble them. What I asked it was, how do I think about assembling these things in terms of a structure? What is a common tagging system that would make sense for all of them? Because otherwise, I'm going to create a tag in the CRM. I apologize. I've got a stream issue, it looks like. So I'm going to try. Just going to confirm. There we go. Excellent connection. We should be back. Okay, so we should be back on our connection. I'm going to apologize for that. For some reason, I have 800 up and down, and I have no idea why I keep losing connection. So if anybody's got ideas on that, I'm going to ask AI eventually. I'm going to make a tech bot that really understands debugging live stream. That's what I'm going to do. But I'll do that later. Okay, let's go back to this. So now we're going through the Teamy. How can I help out around tagging? So then it said, okay, here's the tagging architecture we can do for Automated with Tech. Here's all the different stuff. Here's how it would go. I did give it a little bit of correction here because I don't want to use these things. I'm going to use Fluent Community for the membership stuff. I'll use, and I won't use Shortcart. There's a thing called Fluent Cart that as of today, September 11th, Fluent Cart is not out yet. It's about to be. So I know I'm going to use that already. That's why it's trying to say Shortcart, but again, this is just where you just correct it. But I liked this idea. I was like, oh, status of lead. Cool. We have status tags, interest tags, action tags, temporary process tags, implementation plan text. So now I have something that actually is useful because it's thinking about all the different things I'm probably going to need based upon what I want to do, so I can get the structure in place. Then I came back. Here's the founders, right? Here's how it's going to help me. Here's how it's going to help Junko. So we got all this stuff coming through. Now I like the general idea. And so I said, I like the general idea. I'm just not sure. And this is me on the mic talking to it. It's important because I think you get more out. But I was basically saying, like, I'm curious about other stuff. Like, besides the tagging, are there things structurally I should be thinking about? And then it started going through here. Now I'm going to continue to go through this. I was kind of doing this obviously off camera, but this is important. So now I can really help me work through and think through my strategy for how I'm going to do this, so that I can say, cool, now that we have our strategy, what do I do next? What's the actual instruction? And then bam, now I'm off to the races. So that's just kind of catching everybody up on what that was. If you want the details on how that was all created, especially the Teamy factory where we can create these, I just happen to create this one, and I'm gonna use the Teamy factory again, so you're gonna see it here. But if you want to learn how to create that from scratch, using the exact prompt I did, which was right in here, that also is in the comment of that live stream, and I'll make sure it's in the description and comments of all the live streams, but check them because it's always the same link, by the way. So you got it once, you'll have it forever, just bookmark it. But I started with this, right? And so I walked through how to start and grow. Now, what we're going to do is take this, and then I'm going to turn this into a Teamy, because personally, I find it slower, substantially slower, to add these prompts on. I think it's important to do that, especially in the beginning, but it is a little difficult and slow, and you got to go and copy paste stuff. So I just like to really go into a Gemini gem or a GPT or whatever your preference is. For me, it's Gemini because I use Gemini gems. So I'm going to build a Gemini gem that does this, so I can just riff with that. And because it's a gem, I can give it specialized knowledge and everything else. I can turn it into a Teamy. So now we're going to go from a concept of what riffing is to really boosting what riffing can do. So that's why I like the ability of a bot. Now we're going to go from prompt to a Teamy. All right, so how do we go through and do that? So I'm going to go back into here. I've got my little Fluent Teamy. I'm just going to actually go here. We're going to do a Teamy factory. Okay, so that's it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to mic it off here and just make sure I've got my mic on. All right, here we go. Hey, I've got an idea I kind of want to work through here. This one is a Teamy that's going to be called the RIFF Teamy. RIFF is RIFF, and it's a certain process that this particular Teamy is going to help me to go through. In fact, you'll notice at the bottom of what I have here, there's kind of like I'm calling it a prompt. And that prompt has all the details of the analysis and everything, what RIFF is and the framework and the thinking and all of that fun stuff. What I really want is to have this Teamy walk me through this entire process that RIFF is supposed to go through. So I can give the input, and then it would go through and it would help me riff through that input so I truly understand and have a connection with the results that I'm trying to achieve, right? They're described properly to make sure that I've got all the details thought through and that I have thought through the blind spots. I have been able to kind of see those things that were the non-obvious things that I should have seen, but I didn't, or those things that I'm probably going to remember in a year or think about in a year that I really should think about today. Like, that's what it's supposed to help me to do. That's the entire point of kind of the results reality part of the riff. Then once we have all those defined, and I think that needs to go through a lot of confirmation cycles, by the way. I think there needs to be AI running a confirmation cycle constantly to say, like, is AI aware of anything that it knows that I have not been made aware of? In other words, there's a confirmation missing where it's aware of something. It's maybe an assumed piece of data or definition or clarification, but it doesn't necessarily confirm that I am aware of that same thing. We need to make sure that AI allows that and makes sure that that happens. That's what a confirmation cycle is all about. We can use those in the results and the reality part, but we can also use those in the impact and everything else. So it's a powerful technique that I want to make sure is in there, because the whole idea is to help the user themselves to get into more action and have a better experience. So again, any ideas you have along those lines for any of that iterative feedback or coming up with AI or ways to help AI become even more creative and proactive to help the user so that the user doesn't have any blind spots would be greatly appreciated and extremely useful. Now that's on the results and the reality part of things. Then it moves into the impact. So once that's defined, it says, okay, here's the likely impact that we should be able to expect based on the results and the reality that we just confirmed and all the different details that we have now unlocked and the blind spots are all fulfilled and everything else. Here's what the impact's going to be. As long as the user confirms that impact, right? Again, otherwise we go through confirmation cycles. They can ask questions or clarify the impacts. Now, at any point, if that impact changes, then we have to go back and we have to maybe go back to the results and say, well, do the results have to change because the impact changed? So let's see how we have to change the results. And maybe we have to go through another confirmation cycle with the results. Then we would do that. We would update whatever the results and the reality part was, come back, reset the impact and say, okay, well, here's the likely impact. And now it's updated. Once that's all done, then it goes into this fuse step, right? So we have the reality part we sort of confer with, then we go through the impact stage, then we go into the fusing stage. Now, what fusing is all about is helping the user to connect and actually get into action. And the AI's job is to help the user to do that so that the user just sort of experiences action, but they don't realize they took action until after because it was so natural. It just sort of happened. They're following a bot's, the teamie's instructions, the riff is coming through, they're kind of able to try on the experience, they're all of a sudden taking action, they didn't realize it, they're making progress. And then once that fuse is there, that's a confirmation from both the user and AI that, yeah, those two things, we're connected. This works. In this way, at this level of detail, we are getting movement and we're making progress. So we got to keep this going. Now, after the fuse is done, then we go into the rest of the form. Now, forming is really formation. It's putting out the rest of the plan, whatever the rest of the riff was supposed to do. So if that happened to be, the rest of whatever the initial result or reality was, it sort of ties into that to make sure that that impact can actually be experienced for real in the life of the user, in the contacts and friends and people that the user cares about, and also in the community, the general community that the user is a part of, because we want to make sure that that impact isn't just the user's impact that they feel inside their own head. We want that impact to be felt and experienced by others as well. It has to be defendably verifiable. So we got to make sure that we have that as well. Okay, so I think that's about it. I've got the prompt now follows. I am really open to any questions you have, and especially interested in any sort of ideas you have to improve this whole process. As long as we keep it in this riff framework, I am open to whatever is useful to help us to get an ideal experience. All right, that was a lot of riffing. Now, here's how I'm going to put that prompt in. So I'm going to say riff prompt. And then I'm going to say riff prompt like this. So this is just kind of a way to give code to the AI to say, okay, this stuff is, this is the original riff prompt end, and then blah, blah, blah. That way, everything going between, it sort of gives it a little container to stick in. And then I have my whole thing that I went through. All right. So now this stuff, normally I would go through and start correcting it. I'm not even going to worry about it because I think, honestly, it doesn't matter. AI figures out the gist. So don't get too caught up in the words, just get caught up on the patterns, right? That's the idea. Okay, so now we're going through and I'm gonna take a look at the thinking to see how we are doing here. So we're doing the riff teamy, which is perfect. The results step, this is good. It's going through the kits, the blueprint logic. All right, map on the flow. Now they're forging. So remember that now they get the way that was something else I changed. I called it a forge in the Teamy factory. It's like, you got to forge the Teamy now. Once we have everything connected, we're going to forge it. So that's what it's doing. All right. So let's begin. Result based on detail breakdown. Clear. You don't want a Teamy. You want to codify a core piece of methodology. That's very true. All right. So the current state, complete, well-defined prompt for an AI assistant executes risk process. That is true. It works really well. Complete Teamy assembly kit. For the riff teamy, yes, that's exactly what I want. The blueprint session where we're going to go through this framework. This is the framework. Again, it's kind of the similar thing. It's think about this like the results and the impact. R&I is always that. It's like, what are the results I'm really trying to get? And then what are the impact from those results? Let's really define those first before we move on. That's all we're doing. The rest of the stuff is just what happens after that. So in this case, because it's the Teamy builder, it needs to sort of simulate what the Teamy's going to do and then forge the Teamy. That's the S and F here. Okay. So I think generally speaking, sounds great. Now, so far, this has been pretty useful. Again, I just used it to create the one fluent teamy, but I think this is going to be very useful. So let's go through here. Impact goes beyond simply a no tool. It's about the grounded confidence. I'm taking a core signature process. I don't really care about this. This is the wrong impact. And this is the first time I've had this, which is good. So I'm gonna try to explain how I'm thinking through this, because I think impact is really important. Because if I just said, "Oh yeah, grounded confidence, that sounds good. I want confidence." Yes, it's true, but it's the way it's telling me the confidence is, "Oh, I'm confident because I was able to create a riff framework teamy." I'm already confident I can do that. I don't need that. That's not the new thing. I'm already confident I can do this. I have that grounded confidence. What I need is a different impact. I already have this impact, to be honest. So I need it to be a different impact. So I need to go back and figure out in the results stage, right, where I was trying to do it, kind of where we were. All right, so here's what we want. Here's what I'm gonna do. The impact step, I want to give a little more clarification on. It's not about having confidence that I was able to create the riff teamy using the riff framework. It's what I'm really trying to do is to create this teamy so that I can go through this riff process and work through ideas and get myself into action naturally and stay unstuck and stay in clarity and always stay in flow. Because I have found that riffing with AI really helps the user stay in flow, specifically using the riff model, because the riff actually causes the user to experience action in the real world, which is key to this process. Because a lot of the AI experience in the past with multiple users has been that they work with AI, they feel quote unquote enlightened by AI, but then they don't do anything in the real world. They're not actually taking action. They feel better internally, but they don't actually change their external lives. And so they tend to, that internal positive experience tends to go away very quickly because their external experience is not matching their internal experience. We need to make sure that does not happen. This is the whole point of Riff, is that it fuses the internal experience that you're having with the AI into an external experience, because you are starting to take action and building the actual thing. You're changing your external environment now to continue to be aware of that experience, only at different levels beyond you, right? Not just in your head of how you're experiencing it inside your head, but actually experiencing it being in your life, and then in the lives of others, and then in the lives of your communities and tribes that we're all part of. So that's kind of the I'm not sure how to sort of restate that as an impact, but that's kind of what I'm trying to go to. So how would you, what are your thoughts on that? All right, so now we see. So this is why I like riffing through things. I don't get caught up in the spelling. It's the beautiful part about AI is it doesn't matter. It'll figure out how to do stuff. It'll figure out context. So now we're going to go through the riff process, mission proposal, the impact you would feel after building this teamy. You're clear. So this is good, because this saying it's not the impact the user would feel. Now I might, if this keeps happening, I don't know if it will, because it didn't on the last one, but if it does, I also want to go back to the teamy factory and I'll adjust the instructions a little bit and the impact to say, listen, it's fine to kind of communicate the impact they're going to feel internally, but it can't just be internal. It's also the impact they're going to experience in their life. It's the impact that others will likely experience. It's the impact that the communities that they're a part of will likely experience. And maybe that will help level us up a little bit. So we'll see where that goes, but just kind of give my thinking on how I might adjust this. And that's how I think. I'm always like, oh, we might have to put the teamy factory back in the shop for improvement, but that's good. So end user is going to feel. Based on you described, the internal process, true impact is the feeling of tangible flow. Yes, that's exactly right. It's not confidence, it's flow, the state of alignment. And I guess I told it flow, right, as a word, but it is really what I was trying to do. And that's when I was riffing into the riff prompt to begin with, that was the point, was to stay in that. No gap between internal clarity and external actions. I think that's a really good way of saying that. Because I get uncomfortable with words like flow, because it's a little, wishy-washy sometimes, but having no gap between internal clarity and external actions is great. Oh, I'm internally clear on what to do, and I've already taken the action because it was that clear. That's awesome. That's what I want. Process is no longer an effortful thing to do, but a natural extension of thinking. Yes, process it's just a natural extension of what to do. The action just naturally flows. Perfect. You nailed it. All right. So we reward our little Teamy factory. Is doing a great job helping us make our Riff Teamy. So now we're going to simulate what this Riff Teamy would be. So it's already got in the back of its head, right, a little virtual head here, what the kit's going to look like. Now it's going to be like, pretend all that's put together. You know, what's it going to be? And it's going to kind of imagine what this thing might do. So here's what we got. No guarantees it's going to work, but let's say. So let's say if Junko says, I need to improve our client onboarding process. It feels a bit chaotic right now. And she might say that. She might say, like, I don't know what to do, but I want to talk about it. Like, it just seems like it's off. And that's all she says. Then what should happen is, which is not a huge riff, right? It's just like a sentence. So then what should happen is, with its instructions and everything functioning now, it's a little bit more robust. It's got a little bit more muscle. It's the feeling of chaotic, purpose to build you a clear path from current state to desired outcome. The initial input is client onboarding process. And then when it clients on, here's what we're trying to do. The journey's going to do this. So it's kind of going through that riff step. And then it goes, okay, so this is right. This is kind of what it would do. Then she would go through. Now, what I don't understand is the cycle yet. So I'm going to ask it, how would the confirmation cycle work in this example? And I probably should have just microphoned that because that would have been faster. But I am kind of curious because I don't want to just say, oh, okay, well, that one part looked good. Again, it's not AI doing this. It's me doing this. So if I stop asking questions to get higher quality from the AI, it's not automatically going to give it to me. And it's not AI's fault. It's me because I stopped using the tool properly. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to get a higher quality from the tool, meaning I need higher quality thoughts, right, to come through here. I want that new thought, that useful thought that I can do something with. So this is good. What I want to know is, what about that confirmation cycle thing I was talking about? Like, what if Junko said, well, no, that's not quite it. It's more like this, or it's more like that. Where in here is the blind spots and all of that, right, coming through? And especially here, because what I want it to do is, here are some things I think we should talk about. It should volunteer those already and not just say, like, here's what I think you're doing. Does that sound right? Because then it moves on, and I don't want it to move on, because the users themselves will never, ever, ever, ever describe this at the level of detail that they should. Because if they could, they would already be doing the thing, if that makes sense. That's why they're riffing in the first place, because they're stuck and there's something that they're not aware of. So we want the riff to help with that. So I'm going to make that a little more proactive. So there's the confirmation cycle. And now I got it thinking about the confirmation cycle, which is what I want. So now it's, okay, here's how it would work in action, right? Mostly, but automated feels too big. Can we focus on making it documented or consistent? Now, instead of just moving the riff teamy, would then say, excellent clarification. Of course it would. Okay, it's going to adjust. Is it now? Okay, perfect. Now, here's what I'm going to ask it. And I am going to riff through this a little bit here, try and describe what I want it to do. This is good. I think the confirmation cycle could be dramatically improved, though, and I'd be open to your ideas on how we could do that. For example, I think that when we do this initial R step in the riff, why wouldn't we just offer to the user, like, here are the things, the definitions that I think need to be confirmed. Here are the different items or components I think need to be clarified. Here are some potential blind spots. Here are some things I think we should discuss. Here are some questions that I have. And then for all of that to say, here are the most likely useful answers to all of those. And then we give all of that to the user. So we're not just saying, oh, here's point A, point B. How does that sound? We're saying, okay, I get you. Point A, and here's what I get as point B, and the path and all of that. And then here's all the stuff I think we should start to discuss. And here's the possible answers and things along those lines, or discussion points to discuss. What do you think about that? Where would you like to go? Because that gives the user something to do. It keeps them in natural action. Instead of just saying, like, are we ready to go ahead or not? It says, which one of these do you want to talk about? And so the user can just confirm which one's the right one, and they give you detail. And then we'll continue to do that until we're at a point where we understand that we have everything that we need, detailed enough to actually describe the impact properly, the likely impact that we're about to get, so that we can really understand the experience that we're designing for ourselves. So that's kind of what I would like to do. I don't know if there's a way we can create a mechanism where AI sort of has like a percentage of clarity maybe, or like, you know, oh, here's how close it is to really saying this is fully defined result or a fully defined reality so that it's ready to go to the impact. Because I think if AI keeps asking the user if they're ready, the user is accidentally going to tell the AI to get started too soon. They're going to give them an early signal, and that's probably not right. I think the AI should be in charge of telling the user what it needs, and then and only when the AI decides it has everything, that it can suggest to the user that maybe now it's ready to go into the impact. So I'm open to whatever thoughts you have around this confirmation cycle and how to better embed it so that this entire conversation that we're having as we do this riff teamy with the user is more of a conversational flow that just doesn't ever seem to stop and always just produces action and impact. All right. So now we have all of that. Again, I'm trying to communicate in various ways. When I'm riffing through things, you'll hear me say the same thing 14 different ways to the AI. But that's why I'm doing it 14 different ways, because I want it to hear how I'm saying things in different areas to come at it from this angle and that angle and this angle over here to get a more, hopefully, a better overall knowledge unlock in the AI, because all this stuff is lighting up in its database and it's now aware of all of the stuff that's connected in this general area. That's how I'm trying to get it to give me quality information back without me telling it specifically what to tell me, but to light up stuff and then say, hey, what's the stuff that just lit up that I don't know about yet? That's kind of what I'm trying to do so that I can get the new thought, because that's what helps me obviously take action. Also, again, skip the first paragraph, always tells you you're awesome and it's ridiculous. They should just get rid of those. All right, so the key definitions, this is fine. Hidden assumptions, primary goal. This is good. So this is just said, hey, what do we mean successfully onboarded? Is it a client who has the core product feature XYZ 3 times in the first 14 days? That's perfect. This is exactly what we want to do. The blind spot analysis, OpenAI questions, AI's open questions. I think this is great. So now we're going to do another one. Okay, to transform chaotic to clear result, let's align the details. I propose this. Hidden assumption. Assuming the primary bottleneck is consistent communication, not a flaw in the software. Is this assumption correct? Yeah, that's a good question. I don't mind questions like this. I think that's useful. Blind spot. Potential blind spot. Existing workload, a support team. Oh, I love it. Might increase. Okay, why would it increase ticket volume? Let's find out, right? Like, that's awesome. So yes, this creates a conversation. This now leaves the riff, the first stage of the riff, where there's a conversation about the R part, right? The results, the reality of the results we're trying to design here. So this is perfect. Great. So I'm going to say, basically, I always say, like, let's integrate it. Let's integrate that. And then just call it a, what do I call it? Confirmation cycle. And that's only because I don't want to have to remember 45 different things that it calls. Everything's named in this dramatic way, the clarity, canvas, or whatever. Just call it what it is. I think it's easier. Otherwise, I got to remember all these different things that it's coming up with. So I'm trying to keep those to a minimum. Let's see. Also, I've attached the default knowledge. This teamy will also have access to. Just so you can add those to the instructions. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is add from drive, and I'm going to add in our what were these two things? .md files. I kind of like how AI was asking me to do that. I did change that. I started changing everything to .mds. Because it did seem like a little easier to find some things. Okay, so there's our Teamy Factory directions, brand and mission, and that's for AWT, and then there's our co-founder blueprints. Perfect. Okay, that's it. All right, so now I've just given it the other thing. I'm just making sure it ties in what AWT is so it understands. Obviously, the Teamy Factory knows. I want to make sure the Teamy Factory brings that information, knows that the new Teamy it's creating will also have those documents. That's all I'm doing here. And eventually that might be something I kind of double check in the instructions, because I don't know that it wouldn't have done that. I just wanted to make sure. All right, so there's the blueprint session. Okay, so there's the Riff Teamy. Now we're going to assemble, but I want to see if it had any, I'm very curious if it had any knowledge documents. So this is the instructions. So what I'm going to do first, now it does, I'm going to start changing these. This little thing names things, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to close these out. We don't need these anymore. What I'm going to do here is we're going to go into docs. And then we're going to paste that in. There's our persona instructions. Except now, instead of persona, we're going to call it what it is. So I say riff teamy instructions. All right. So now we got our riff teamy instructions. I'm going to go pull those, which are here, copying that. I'm just copying these so I have them down and I can save versions and everything else, right? It's kind of that way in case I mess something up again, I've got a version of the original instructions. Super important. So now what I'm going to do is pop this into building the Riff Teamy. So I'm just moving the knowledge into that folder. So I know, actually that's not where it goes. I want to go AI sources for live streams. Move. Perfect. Oh, no, I take that back. I want to go into Teamies. So first we're going to go into Teamies. Then I need to create a new folder for my new Teamy. Riff Teamy. So we're going to keep it nice and organized, and then everything about the Riff Teamy is going to go in that folder. So this is how I'm trying to keep it organized as I go. I also think it is important to try to stay organized as you do this, because if there's ever that, oh, I'm just going to go back and organize it later, you never will. Ask me how I know. Okay, so there's our instructions. Next, research 1 of 2. Oh, we did have psychology of translating intention to action. Ho ho, this is cool. This is what I wanted. I wanted the bot, I wanted AI to say, listen, I got to go research what you're telling me to do. Because honestly, the riff thing works. I'm into action already. Now it's going to really understand how to do this from a psychological perspective, right? Or it should. So here's my prompts. So I'm going to grab those. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to temporarily use these. Actually, that's not true. I'm going to keep these and call this what it was. This was the knowledge queries. And we're going to call this riff teamy. All right, so we got the riff teamy knowledge queries. Okay, this is just so I could rebuild it if I needed to. What I'm going to do is take the prompt, first prompt we have, and I'm going to get these things started. So I'm going to open up a couple of Geminis because they got to get cranking on these reports. And it used to be you could do 3 of these at a time. I don't know if that's going to still be the case. Let's find out, because I have done a bunch. So there's our first prompt. Again, I'm just popping it in there. I'm just going to go full screen and pick my head out so you can see this. And that's that. Let me just close this out. Okay. So now it's going to be kind of chunking a little bit, thinking through its thing, figuring out kind of what its plan is going to be for research. While it's doing that, I'm going to go and copy the other prompt that is there as well. And then we're going to go through and pull this out. So, and build the other research out so we can get a simultaneous research. Let's pop this back. Actually, I'm going to grab it from here. So there's our second prompt. I'm just grabbing these to down here. All right. Prompt number 2, turn on deep research. Always deep research. All right, bam. Now it's doing deep research number 2. So it's going to have our little plan here. I will kind of just scan these to see if it seems like it will be useful. I don't know if it will, but like, hey, neural mechanisms that linking emotion to action. I love that. Let's just do, and finding studies, right? Verifiably defendable stuff. Yes. Things that are useful, likely to cause impact. How hard is this? Not at all. This is so freaking easy. Okay. So there we go. We got those 2. Then our assembly guide. I'm just going to go ahead and capture that. And then since this one, I think also needs to be in our Riff Teamy. And then what I'm going to do is just file make copy. That is only because this ends up being... Actually, cancel that. Okay, so now it's in there. Now let's go to file make copy because it shows in the same folder. That's why I'm doing that. So this is assembly. I'll change these directions in a bit. Okay, so we're just going to assembly guide MD. And this is going to be, we're going to call this Riff Teamy. I know this is probably boring as hell to watch, but it is so important to stay organized as you go. So I've got my Riff Teams assembly guide, and that's just so I can search for it in Google Drive. I'm putting the Riff Teamy thing up there. All right, there's our assembly guide. All right, so we're already working on the prompts to get our actions. We've got the 4 totals. We're gonna have those 2 plus these 2, which is perfect. And then we're just naming the gem, popping in the instructions, and off to the races. So let's do that. Now, these reports are probably going to take a little bit of time. Let me get this other one started here. I'm just going to check through research. Oh, that's interesting. I have no idea. Oh, I've never heard of this. This is the stuff where it drives me nuts when people talk about how AI is making people dumb. Because this is not true if you're using AI in ways that do not make you dumb. Just don't do that. I've never heard of a Johari window. I am very curious about that. That is something that I'm just naturally curious about. I want to go learn about it, find out what it is, and be like, oh, what else can that do? This is how you get smarter with AI, right? We are learning to prompt, then we are prompting to learn, so we have more stuff to take action on, right? More useful ways to get action and make real impact. How else are we going to do it? This is how it's done. Inversion thinking with Charlie Munger. This is really cool. So, and what I like about it is it's AI telling me this is what it needs access to help me, not me telling AI, let me tell you what you need access to, which is how I think most people do it. And that is why most people probably don't get the impact from AI that they should be getting, at least my opinion. All right, so that's cranking along. We're going to let both of those do their thing, and I'll check back on those in a little bit while that's doing that. In the meantime, I'm going to prep our gem. So I'm going to go to Gemini. I'm going to open up our gems, and we're going to do a brand new gem. All right, so this is going to be our Riff Teamy. So this would be the one that I literally, when I'm just kind of like I'm not quite sure what to do, or I got a lot going on, or I'm trying to think through stuff, this is the one I'm going to use to help me do that, to help me get through, to help me get into that action of what I'm trying to do, because it's really good at that. So I'm going to take this. So we're assembling the instructions now, pasting the instructions in there, coming through. I'm going to make sure to take out anything like you are the Riff Teamy. It's not the Riff Teamy, right? It's Riff Teamy, specialized AI assistant, strategic partner, guide through results, impact, fuse and form framework, which is fine. There's our core knowledge, automated with tech. There's our co-founder blueprints that it's going to reference. I am going to add those now, but you can see this is so important. The instructions tie into the knowledge. So that's why the knowledge is more useful, because it's not just randomly there for the bot to have access to. The bot's instructions tell it what to do with the knowledge, which activates the knowledge so you get better quality results, quality impact, right? That's how you do it. Okay, so I'm going to come through here. We're going to go into adding from Drive. I'm going to go back into my .mds, which works really well. I'm loving that. I've never thought about that. Again, this is just that thing that makes me smarter. So, okay, so there's the Teamy Study Guide. Which ones do I want to do? I want to do the .mds that are, where were the 2 co-founders and brand and mission. All right, so we're going to insert those. And we're going to continue on. Prime Directive. Okay, RIP framework. I'm just kind of going through, seeing what it does. There's our core principles. The awareness scaffolding. So this is where it makes us more aware. Propose, don't ask. This is the new thing, which is great. Translate the how to result. Also very important, because if I accidentally tell AI how to do something, it needs to stop me and say, you just told me to do this. So instead, I'm going to just assume you want me to produce the result you think that would have produced. If this is the result, maybe I'll do it your way, but maybe I'll do it another way, right? That's kind of what we want AI to do. I don't want to tell AI how to do its job. I think that is a mistake, and that is what most people do accidentally. And that's what limits it. So there's the RIFF process going through. This generally looks pretty good to me. And we will go from there. All right, so I've got my little RIFF bot. Now, I've built this for automated with .tech, right? We're using it specifically for us. That is how you should be building your teamies. So this isn't like a RIFF bot that I can just give you a template for. I can do that stuff, and I think I probably will, but I'll do that when we open up automated with .tech, which will be coming up in next few days at this point, because I'm going to use these bots to these teamies to basically get everything up and running. But first I got to create the teamies. But when I do, everything's gonna be up and running. Then I can go back and say, let's create a generic, riff teamy for somebody. So you guys can copy and paste those if you want. And I'll put those in the automated with.tech community when it's ready. But again, all free. That all stuff will be free. I'll make sure it's there. This one I'm not going to give you because it wouldn't make sense. It would need all the specific knowledge and it's being customized for certain things. However, everything that I showed you how to do, you can just go back to the start of this and you riff with the Teamy Factory, create your own Teamy Factory in for your own company, your own standards, your own things, your own, about your co-founder, all that stuff. And if you need help with that, let me know. I will show you how to do that. That's what we're doing here. Whether it's going to be in this channel or another one, but communicate, leave it in the comments, because the more of you that are seeing these, that leave these stuff in the comments and you help with things, I will be watching that. I'm not trying to charge for any of this stuff right now. I want to show people how to do this. And more importantly, I want other people practicing it so I can see how it works for you as well. It works extremely well for me. I'm happy with the results. You can see that because I'm recording it in real time, but I don't necessarily know that everything that I'm able to do, because I've been doing this for, at least 8 months, practicing this sort of style of techniques. So when you try, does it work for you, right? Do you get a riff win out of it? Let me know. If you have a certain topic that you want to try to figure out, how would you do this? Or how would you solve that? Or, how would you work through this? That's the sort of stuff I want to see in here. And we'll be taking all of the stuff that we need to do anyway on a day-to-day basis and showing it for content anyway. So you'll be seeing all this. All right, let's go back there. Look at that. You had no idea I was just trying to pause so I could get our reports here. So here's our bringing goals to action and synthesis. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna export this into a Google Doc. Let's see if our other one also is done. It is perfect. So I'm going to export that into a Google Doc. There's our 2 knowledge pieces. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to see where it says knowledge, psychology of action, MD. So I'm gonna take that, which does say you just created. Turns out I did. So knowledge, psychology of action, goal of realization. So I believe that is it. Yeah, bridging goals to action. Perfect. So knowledge is what we now have. And then I am going to put this into our riff teamy. And then the next thing that we needed, and remember I'm keeping it like this just because I'm just going to keep the names set for now. Like they are putting them because the instructions reference them like this. And we're going to put this into just so everybody else knows where it's all organized under riff. Okay. So now I've got my other 2 knowledge documents. There's my instructions, my first 2. Here are the other 2. So we're going to add from drive, and then I'm going to do my .mds. Nope, let me go back to recent here. I can find it, I think a little easier. Knowledge blind spot frameworks and knowledge psychology of action. I like both of those. Let's do that. All right. So now I've got knowledge framework, psychology of action, brand and mission, co-founder with my instructions. There's my teamy. I am saving it. We should be forged and officially off to the races. Also looks like I am not able to share enough video. It says YouTube's not receiving enough video. So I'm going to pause and try to reset the stream here very quickly, just in case this is not working. All right. Now we should be back, I'm hoping. Okay, sorry about that. Again, I'm going to try to watch the stream as I go through and do this. Hopefully that's going to be not super glitchy. All right, so now we've got a riff teamy. So I assembled the riff teamy just to make sure that everybody kind of see what I'm doing here. So there's our assembling. So there's the name. There's all of our instructions. We created the knowledge documents already. These are the 2 that we already had from earlier in the earlier stream we did on a previous stream. These are the ones that we just created on this stream that our Teamy Factory has helped us to create. So now we've got the riff teamy. And all I did was just assemble, right? So now I'm going to use it. I'm going to pin it as well because I'm going to probably use this one a bunch. So there's our riff teamy. Now, what I was not ready to do was riff through something. So I'm going to kind of make something up, but I want to go through a test. I'm not trying to riff. I am kind of going to try to riff for real. But let's just see how it goes. I'm mostly trying to test this. I'm not trying to get anything done necessarily. I'm just trying to run through it to see does the car move? Does the engine turn on? All that sort of stuff. So we're going to give it a try run. Let me just ponder something. Okay. I think I got it. I am trying to work out over the next 72 hours how I can kind of take automated with tech and move it from where it currently is, which is a WordPress site that has all the plugins installed, but nothing's really set up. We do have email working. We're using Fluent boards, but I need to really basically make it publicly useful because it's not right now. Even our first post is that hello world post that WordPress uses all the time. So I really think within 72 hours, what I would like is to have the experience where when you go to Automated with Tech, there's an initial page that's there that sort of explains what we do and points people to the YouTube channel, but also has a way into the community. So they can create a community account and actually get into the community where there's a space they have access to that's, let's say, maybe called tools and resources or something like that, where they can pick up additional tools and resources that I can put just for the members of, the Automated with .tech community. And remember, we're going to keep that community free. So I want to make sure that we can, have this with as many engaged people who really want to understand how to use AI in all these cool ways as possible. So again, I'm not quite sure what I'm missing there. Wanting to sort of get this done. The trick is really in 3 days. So if I can get it done within, three days or so, that's what I'm looking for. And I don't know exactly what I'm going to need to do. I guess I'm going to need copy. I'm going to need a strategy, right? And I'm not sure what to do first. So I guess where do we begin? What are your thoughts? And I'm not even sure. Maybe I'm trying to do too much in 3 days. I mean, there's a lot going on in my head. So, help me through. My favorite part about using the microphone is not having to think about what you're saying. So just get it out. All right. Now we're going to go through. I'm going to take a look at this thinking, see if it's kind of at least heading in the right direction. Publicly useful, which is perfect. I also like digging into what it means to them. So that's perfect. And I also will use terms like publicly useful because it needs to figure that out. I know it doesn't know what that means, and it's probably not likely that it has a valid definition that's obvious in this scenario as I'm using it. That's on purpose, so that I can just really get it to kind of stretch through its database and think through some things to hopefully light up more pathways between the data points so it has more awareness of what it knows as knowledge so that I can get it to make me aware of that knowledge and then I can take actions with it, right? It's kind of, again, what we're trying to do. So I think this probably worked pretty good. Let's find out. All right, later comments overwhelming, underlying logic, visual strategy map, a person help you build that map. Precarious strategy, you want to do a solid foundation of shared understanding. Perfect. Key definition to confirm, publicly useful. A new visitor lands on the site, immediately understands the core value. Using AI in cool ways. It is guide to take one clear primary action. Potential blind spot, the visitor's journey, listed parts, homepage, YouTube link, community sign up, simple learning journey. Visitor lands on a homepage, understands a mission. Okay. I'll be curious as to what that details might be. Hidden assumptions. Okay, this is not too bad, but it's dumping me out with a conversation about the results. So I'm going to go through just one cycle of this to kind of test it out. Then I'm going to wrap up this stream because now we've basically got it. I think it'll be pretty much there as we go through. And that is just because I have a meeting to get down to in downtown Austin. I'll be leaving here in just a bit. All right, let's see. Key definition. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Regarding the key definition of publicly useful, I think generally speaking, that's exactly right. I would just utilize whatever Automated with Tech, whatever the visitor describes Automated with Tech to be, that's how we want to think about it. We don't want to think about Automated with Tech from our perspective. It's always from the visitor's perspective. So always describe it from, their perspective. What I have done is I've uploaded knowledge that might be useful for this, that sort of describes various perspectives of our audience, or at least the likely perspectives. It's not an exhaustive list, but it does give you some idea that might help you to better define what publicly useful means. Regarding the potential blind spots to investigate on the visitor's journey, I think you've got the different, sections kind of making sense there. It feels like that might be too simple of a journey, and I don't know if that really. I guess you're right. We could investigate the blind spots in that journey itself. I'm just not sure what they might be, but yeah, we should investigate whatever those are to make the journey essentially the best experience. That's what we're looking for. Blind spots that might be to make the experience even better, that we should obviously put into place now for the visitor, right? So that because when they have that experience that's just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, they will tell other people about it. That's what we want. Finally, let's see. The hidden assumption to verify the minimal viable experience. The 72-hour sprint, it's not perfect website. That's exactly right. It's just good enough to get going on ramp so we can continue to build momentum on that. It's just, let's get this thing publicly ready in 72 hours, publicly accessible. Then we can make it better and better and better. The potential blind spot to investigate in the hook. I think we should definitely talk about hooks. I'm open to talking about anything that would be useful that we can go through. So we can keep that one open for now. All right, so this I'm going to let it go through, and I just want to see, like, does it go even deeper and come up with cool new stuff where I go, yes, I love that idea. I already know how I'm going to use that and take action on that. If I'm not imagining myself already having taken action on the thing that it's about to give me as an idea that hopefully is new, then, you know, we're hopefully going to use it. Sorry, I'm going to start and restop the stream here very quickly because it seems like I'm getting... a little start stop here. There we go. We should be back in excellent condition. Okay. All right. Thank you for processing for the additional context. Sounds good. So 2 things. Let's address the journey first. Right to question. The ABC path is too simple. The blind spots aren't the path itself. The experience between the points. That's true. That's exactly right. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Lack of immediate resonance. A visitor must feel like this is for me within 3 seconds. Okay. The headline and single sentence below must speak directly to design.com and not features the principle of a brand. We don't sell tools. We create a state of tangible flow. Like again, like, oh, sorry. We use the principle from the brand documents. Okay, so they're using the principle, but the headline should be stop juggling AI tools, start creating tangible flow. So this is where I would be like, yeah, but that's not the visitor's terminology. Now, here's very important. This teamy is to riff. This teamy is not to copyright. So I don't like this. It doesn't matter because I'm smart and a human and I know not to use it. I don't need to correct the AI here. It's not useful to do that because it's just riffing with me. I know I'm not going to use that part, but it's helpful because I now know I'm going to riff. I'm going to teamy a copywriter and content, and I'm going to need that really understands the audience. So I can riff and then give the output of a riff to the thing that understands the audience and say, hey, here's kind of the rough plan we had riffed about. How would you fill it? What would you call the page? What would you write the headline as, right? Because the riff teamie here is not a good copywriter. Wasn't made to be. And it doesn't, and you can't make a bot be all things. It needs to be really, really specialized because that's how you make them really useful. So sure, I'm going to create that bot and have much better headlines than that. B2C, sign up friction can be a complicated sign up form, radically simple. So absolute minimum email address and a password, nothing else. Okay, I'll probably put names in there because it's a community, but that's fine. And again, this is where I'll go into the community bot that'll help us to do this. So I'm going to riff a teamie, create a little teamie of a community teamie that'll help us to manage all of that. And then the fluent teamie is the technical one that helps us technically put it together. But the community one helps us guide sort of the strategy and content. That'll be the idea. And then arriving in the community. And then here's your promise hook. We can do some, the automation stuff comes in. Welcome, fine. All of this sounds good. Okay. I think this is good enough. I'm happy with the direction that it's going. Again, I'm not necessarily going to use this one for real, but that wasn't the point. It was just kind of roughly tested out. However, in doing this test, I now know what I am actually going to go through with my next riff, which is to riff through how I want to do the content and the community. And I don't know how much needs to be a marketer and all of that. And I want to talk through what this teamie might look like, or maybe I need 3 different teamies. And then I can riff with the riff teamie to figure out what it is that I'm looking for in the next teamie, so I can get this actual content for the pages and all that stuff. And then I'm going to build it with the teamie factory. So that's kind of what I'm going to be doing. Again, I'll be doing this off camera. And then, I'm still going to swing for the 72-hour thing. I don't know if I'll really do that or not, but the goal is by next week to have this thing up and live so that, within a week, we go from kind of a blank WordPress site to something up and running. So that's kind of the idea. All right. I am going to pause. At this point, it does look like I am sadly having to pause and stop and start too many times here. I'm going to work on I might have a streaming. In fact, I'm going to do a bunch of teamies. I think I might even spend the next 72 hours not doing the site and just building out the teamies so I can build the site, because I think the site will go faster at that point. But anyway, you got some ideas. Hopefully the stream wasn't, too rough to go through and watch. I apologize for the start and stops because my connection is somehow off, but maybe there's a processor somewhere that's overworked. But I'll figure that stuff out too with AI. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. Stay tuned to the channel. If you like what you're seeing here, please subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. And then pay attention to the live streams, because I'm going to be doing my best. I'm going to create basically a team that's going to help me schedule all these things out with topics that I'm going to need anyway. So I'm going to start scheduling those out over the weekend as well. So you'll see those hopefully 7 to 14 days in advance, so you can kind of see the ones you want, and then you can get notified. And you'll see that just on the homepage of the Automated with Tech YouTube channel. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Open to any other suggestions you have. Appreciate time, effort, and opportunity you put into doing this. And hopefully you've created some teamies. Let me know. I would love to know what teamie you created and how it's working for you. So with that, we're going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you again, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.